like more interesting than most of
I
those.
believe it. I believe it, man. That's like a huge story. Story of the
And
year.
like I really got into it. Like
Yeah.
initially I was so nervous because I had never even like covered a single Murdoch story, and there's like so much involved, and it's like so complicated. But towards the end of it, like we weren't nothing was scripted over the final 3 days, and we would just like talk for hours on end. And like at that point, felt like we knew it like the back of our hands, so we were just kind of rolling. We'll see what happens next, because obviously
It's,
these financial crimes, and you could say, oh, well, he's away for life anyway, it doesn't matter. But like the state was saying, we want to get justice for those victims too, so they're probably gonna at least try some of them, and I don't think he's just gonna plead guilty.
Good. I think the last 2 days, our community has been able to see the frustration that I've expressed for quite some time now about what I call catch and release, where we have the same people that we catch and then they just get released and back in the community and continuing to commit crimes. I've talked about the crack in the criminal justice system. I think with court yesterday and today, it shows that crack. Fortunately, we've had a circuit judge, though, who's fixed that crack, at least in these 2 cases. I just wish that we didn't even have to address these issues in circuit court, that they got handled at the magistrate level, which is where bond is set. What we're seeing is that we arrest someone on some very serious charges. They get a very low bond set on them. They get out. They get rearrested. They have another low bond set on them. They get out. They get rearrested, and they have another bond set on them. And at some point, our magistrate system has got to determine that these people do not deserve to be out in our community. They're continuing to hurt people, rob people, just commit crimes. And it's got to stop. Our legislature is in session. They're dealing with it now. I know that's a priority from our governor all the way through our House and our Senate, that they're looking at bond reform. They're looking at the whole system of catch and release and trying to fix it. And I think our community and elected officials need to see what we've been dealing with. And we're going to show you 2 classic cases. It started off yesterday with a bond reduction hearing for Cheatham. This is the man who ran over our deputy last year. This is the man who tried to kill our deputy. He was in a stolen car. His previous record, juvenile record, is atrocious. This is not his first time being in the system. And here he is, stolen car, selling stolen stuff, and resisting arrest to the point of trying to kill a deputy by running her over. Only by the grace of God that she didn't get killed, but she scarred the rest of her life. And his bond is set at $150,000. That doesn't mean he has to put $150,000 up. They can only put up a fraction of that. But then we get where they ask for a bond reduction. They want that reduced even more. That he needs to go home. He needs to be back in the community. He has demonstrated just what a threat that he is, not only to us in law enforcement, to everybody in our community. Fortunately, the judge yesterday denied his request to have his bond reduced, but he's still $150,000 bond. I think the circuit court judge yesterday made a very profound statement when she said that if he would have been brought in front of her for a bond hearing, she'd have put no bond on him. No bond. But here he is with a local magistrate putting $150,000. And I spoke at the time that he was arrested that that's the value of a life of a deputy. That's not much. That's not telling the people out here wearing this uniform that's protecting our communities that their life's not worth much more than that right there. And then we had the second case. Mr. Grooms. Now, if you'll look, Mr. Grooms was arrested for carrying a gun, having a gun, May of 2021, and drug charges. His bond is set at $5,000. That's May. We don't go too many more months, and then we're in July, and here he is charged with murder, having a gun and killing somebody, murder. His bond is set $100,000 with house arrest and ankle monitor. House arrest, ankle monitor means absolutely nothing to the people who have them on. They don't abide by it. They continuously violate it. So here he is out on the bond. And then this weekend, he's out at a party at 1 a.m., not at his house, somewhere else. That's not house arrest. That's not being in his house. He's at a location where there's a shooting. We have a young lady in the hospital now who's fighting for her life, who was shot in that shooting. We arrest him. What does he have? He has a gun. Another weapon charge is on him. So that is placed on him. And guess what kind of bond he gets? Our local magistrate puts a $10,000 bond on him. He's already out on these other bonds. He's already demonstrated he's not going to follow it. He violates it. $10,000 bond. So we request that we have a bond revocation hearing, an emergency one. We filed it. It got done quick. We go in front of the same judge that heard the case yesterday. Her words were, she's stopping a revolving door. She put him in jail exactly where he needed to be. The only way to protect our community is keep people like you just see in jail. That is it. That's the only way that we're going to stop them. And we got to send a message. And I'm glad for these two cases, hopefully are sending the message not just to the bad guys, not just to the community, but to these magistrates who set these bonds. This is what you're doing. You let this guy out. You let this guy out. And somebody's laying in the hospital fighting for their life because you let him out. For whatever reason you deemed, you saw that he's already out here on a murder charge, on another gun charge, 2 bonds. You let him out on another bond. He got out almost immediately after being arrested. $10,000 bond is pennies. That is the crack in our criminal justice system. That is the catch and release. This shows it right here. We've got to stop that. We've got to stop it. Questions?
So really just in the last 2 days highlights something that, has been a priority of yours, really over the last years here. Why is it something that, you're continuing to harp on, continuing to focus on?
Because it's not fixed yet. It's still going on. This happened this weekend. This Grooms was, arrested this weekend with a gun, and here we are back again. So it hasn't been fixed, and it can be fixed. Our magistrate's going to fix it by looking at when somebody comes before them what the previous record is. If they're already out on a bond, if they're a danger to the community, if they're a flight risk, they can set bonds. They can set very high bonds. They can set a no bond. They just need to do it. We need help. The community needs help. And I'm going to continue to preach about it and talk about it and yell as loud as I can until it gets fixed. Because every day it's not fixed, somebody's going to die. Somebody's going to get injured. Somebody's going to be a victim of crime because this system that we got just got a big crack in it.
So a bill passed the House, I think, just in the last few weeks here. So under that bill, people who commit violent crimes while out on bond for another violent offense would automatically have the initial bond revoked. A new bond hearing would have to be held in circuit court within 14 days. If granted bond on the second offense, they'd have to pay it in full.
Correct.
What do you make of that particular bill? I know there's other bond reform legislation, but
It's a great bill. It will work. That will help us. It's a great bill. It needs to be passed as quick as possible and get it to the governor so he can sign it. It needs to be passed. That will fix this problem here. That will fix somebody like Grooms getting out and menacing our community.
And then you touched on it briefly, but just among the comments that the judge made this morning in revoking that bond, she said, "We're not allowing this to be a revolving door because it ends right here." What do you make of that?
We need more judges like that. We need judges not just on the circuit courts talking like that, but also judges in the magistrate's court. That first level, the summary court judges are the very first ones that when someone's arrested, they go before. They need to have that same attitude too. They can stop the revolving door. They can stop the catch and release. So it just can't be our circuit judges doing it. It's got to be all of our judges.
What about the fact that it's been 2 years almost since this murder charge that he's out on bond for? Do you think that needs to happen quicker, that he gets to trial for these charges?
Yeah, COVID slowed our system down. There's a backlog of cases, but we still need to hold people accountable. Again, bond is set to make sure that you're not a danger to the community and you're not a flight risk. When you're demonstrating that you're going to continue to commit crimes after you're out on bond, that shows me you're a danger to the community. So it doesn't matter if it's 2 years, 3 years, or how long it is after you commit that crime. You know, you still should be following the rules if you're allowed to get out on bond. My opinion is you shouldn't have been on a bond anyway. That's a murder charge.
Yeah, but it, from the sense of somebody sitting in jail for 2 years waiting to be on trial, stuck on a bond, I mean, it's innocent until proven guilty in this, this country. Don't they deserve to get that trial a little quicker, you think?
Right. Well, that young lady that's fighting for her life in the hospital right now, that's the one you need to ask. She's the one that needs to be asked is if he should have been out. And, him waiting to go to trial 2 years later, is that worth her life? That's who you need to ask that question to, the victims. We forget about the victims. These two guys we just showed you up here, they're not victims. We see the victims every single day. People may see these guys that are arrested. We see the victims. We see the pain. We see the heartache that they go through and they have to live with. And some of them are not able to live with it because they're killed. This system needs to be fixed.
Do you feel like this is another case that has the ball rolling for the catch and release process within the Midlands?
Yeah, I think this can, I think when Deputy Merriman was ran over and the bond was set so low, I think that got people's attention. And that's not just the community members, that's voters, and that's also elected officials. So I think that case, and now I hope this case is really going to show those in the legislature who's looking at this, who has any doubt, this is what needs to be fixed. So yes, I think these cases need to be used as examples. And there's lots more throughout the state. It's not just here in Richland County, but this is what I'm worried about.
Okay, and going forward, will RCSD continue to push more cases like this so that those who have records and do crimes can see that the system is changing?
Yeah, we're going to continue to push the solicitor's office and our court system to revoke bonds of those who are out on a bond and commits another crime. Let's bring them back to court. Let a circuit judge make a determination if they're going to stay out or stay in. So, yeah, we're going to continue to push it. We're going to do our part. I don't think there's any doubt that we go out here and we solve these crimes and we arrest the people responsible. We're held accountable for that. Let's hold everybody in this criminal justice system. Let's hold them accountable too. All right, thank y'all.